presupposition. Now, what is a presupposition? It's not quite a belief. It's not something that we believe is absolutely 100% true all the time, because we might be able to find counterexamples to some of what I'm about to teach you. But think of them as attitudes that when we take on, produce predictably excellent results. As a coach, as a hypnotist, these are great attitudes to take on when I'm working with clients. I encourage you to take these on as attitudes and try them. You may find some you really like, some you don't like so much. Try them out in your personal life. Try them out in your professional life. Notice for yourself where they work and serve you. Notice where they're useful in your life first. And then you can worry about the exceptions down the road. When we presuppose something, we're making an assumption that something is true, and then we're building upon that. So, for example, if I say, well, by the end of the entire executive practitioner training, I'm not sure which part of it you will have enjoyed the most. Now, it could have been the live demos that we will be doing with you, and you will be doing with one another. It could be the learning of particular NLP processes and how you can apply those processes to create dramatic and rapid change in different areas of your life or in helping others. It could be the model of how you look at the world and what you believe is possible in your life. I don't know which part you'll enjoy. That's really up to you to discover for yourself. So you can imagine, now realize, what's the first thing that I presuppose? What's the first thing that I built upon? And that was that you're going to complete the NLP practitioner training. That you're going to be here for all those weekends. Okay? So, let's start with presupposition. The first one, and this is, I believe, one of my favorites, is behind every behavior is a positive intention. Now, what is this? Well, 13 years of working with smokers, I've never met a smoker who was smoking trying to get my cancer. Okay, and doing thousands of cases of weight loss, I've never met an overweight person eating a donut trying to get diabetes. Okay? And so, if you think about it, the attitude, right, that behind every behavior, even when that behavior is no longer useful, even when it is even destructive, is some positive intention, some universally acceptable positive intention. That really can open your mind to, number one, assessing, is this behavior working or not? Number two, it can really help to tee up dropping that behavior if it's not working, replacing it with something else that's good. Now, the reality is, the reason why most people smoke is they believe that smoking is going to give them relief and relaxation. And in truth, the act of smoking, the ritual of taking a break, walking away, doing 10 deep breaths, that does work to give you relaxation and relief. The fortunate thing for them is that it doesn't require the cigarettes, nicotine, and tobacco to do it. Why do most people overeat? Because they believe it's going to give them a sense of comfort. Okay? And so this is what we mean by the positive intention behind behavior. Another classic example is ask yourself, most of us, if we're honest, have beaten ourselves up about something we've done or said or did. Why did I do that? That was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Right? And if you ask yourself, what's the positive intention? Being hard on yourself, and self-criticism, judgment, condemnation. The positive intention, well, I'm really hard on myself, and then I'll behave better. And if I behave better, then I'll get better results. And if I get better results, then I'll be happier, and then I can relax, and then everything's going to be good. And I'll say, wow, that's interesting. Now, I've got a question. How's that working out for you? Because the reality of it is that most people, when we beat ourselves up, it just feels worse. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what happens for everybody. And so if the behavior you're using, like beating yourself up, in order to improve your behavior, to make you happier, is making you miserable, then I guess it's not working. And now we've created a pathway. We've opened up an opportunity for you to let go of that old behavior and replace it with something new. It also gives something attitude that no one is inherently just a bad person or evil. Next one. There is no failure, only feedback. Failure implies judgment. Failure implies it's over, finality. And it implies that we are somehow making a judgment now based on what we're doing. Whereas feedback is just simply feedback. It's more of kind of a curious scientist view of the world. Now, what we know from doing behavioral change work for years on end is that when we plug our self-worth into what we're doing and go, this means this about me. If I do it, it'll mean this about me. And if I don't do it and fail, it'll mean this about me. Well, that makes that learning process a million times harder. Thank God children don't generally think that way. Right? When they're learning how to walk and they're crawling around and then, they finally get up and get some balance and then they flop over like a weeble wobble and they go through the weeble wobble stage and then eventually they kind of prop themselves up with some things and now they're walking around like a drunken sailor and then pretty soon they're top heavy and they're walking around and crashing into things and what have you. Imagine how hard that would be if they said, my God, if I don't get walking perfect the first time, that's going to really mean something now. You know how heavy that is pushed on them. Call me crazy, but I see this in weight loss all the time, and I just don't think, I don't think your self-worth should be dependent upon what you eat for lunch or how quickly you quit smoking. If you think about it, if everything's perfect was a requirement the first time, I'll be lying on the ground on diapers, unable to speak. Right? Wouldn't be able to walk, wouldn't be able to talk, wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom. It's the cutest thing in the world to watch my little ones try to do the fork into their mouth the first time, and they're just learning how to do that. And they put the spaghetti on the side of their face. That's how we learn. That's how we learn. We learn by trying and doing and getting feedback and learning from that feedback. And the more you apply judgment to it, the more you pass or fail or look at the world that way, the less feedback you really get. It doesn't feel good. And when it doesn't feel good, when looking at what we're doing doesn't feel good, or when we're afraid we're going to get judged or criticized or condemned, people want to avoid it. So, if we can replace that attitude of judgment with curiosity, which is observation about it, that can be extremely useful in creating a nice feedback loop. The more feedback we get, the better we learn. Business owners know this. They stay on top of their numbers. They stay on top of the business. It thrives. When they don't, they start to have problems. That's presupposition. It works perfectly to produce the results they're getting. A big difference between an NLP coach and the therapist, and there's nothing wrong with therapy, it's just a very different domain, is that an NLP coach, when you come into our office, we never look at you like you're broken, like you're a bird with a broken wing that needs some sort of triage or what have you. We take the attitude that you work perfectly to produce whatever results you're currently getting, which means whatever strategy you're using to produce the results you're getting, it works perfectly to produce that particular result. Which means if you then change that strategy, that new strategy will work perfectly to produce a new result or a different result. And so we will adjust that strategy until we're getting the result that we actually desire. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Let's go to the next one. The next presupposition, I believe this one can truly save a marriage and any other kind of relationship. And this is the attitude that the meaning of my communication is the response that I get. The meaning of your communication is the response that you get. So what does that really mean? Notice what happens when most people have a disagreement. One person will say one thing, the other person will take it a different way, and then they'll compare notes. And they'll say, well, that's not right. Well, that's what you said. Well, you should know more than that. You should give me more credit, and pretty soon they're fighting and they're defending themselves, and what happens with the communication? It disintegrates, it turns into a meltdown or a fight. Now, imagine what would happen if you took this on as an attitude. The meaning of my communication is however it lands on the person's communication. What that causes me to do is it causes me to now put my focus and attention on them, not on me, on them, and noticing how my communication is landing. And if it's not landing exactly the way I want it to, I can instantly adjust my communication real time until I'm getting the response that I want. It puts the onus on me to to adjust my communication, and it's much more reality-based. So the me and my communication is not what I said, it's not what was in the email, it's not what should be obvious, it's not what's in the contract, right? It's however it lands on the other person. So be willing to try that out, particularly in your personal relationship. I think what you'll find is you get phenomenally better results with less effort. And that's, of course, one of the things that helps you for helping you produce and create. The next presupposition is that we have all the resources that we need. Now, we're just going to take this on as an attitude that since we're not broken, since there's nothing fundamentally missing, since none of us have really come from the island of misfit toys, and we didn't come from the factory defective, that we have all the resources internally to produce the results that we want. If another person can do it, we can do it. This doesn't mean that I'm going to go try out to be a linebacker, for the San Francisco 49ers next year, of course. But if we take on the attitude that we have all the resources we need, it keeps us open to the possibility. It keeps us looking for new options and adding more choice, which, of course, is going to likely increase the chances of us getting the result that we're after. Now, the next presupposition that we've already covered is people respond to their map of reality, not reality itself. This is why two people see the same event and have a very different response. Why? Because we're not responding to reality. We're responding to our own internal, distorted, skewed, twisted version of reality that has an agenda built into it. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing, but when you realize that is how we operate, it allows you to step back and get some perspective. If you know that as you go down the river of your life, that around the next bend it pulls hard to the left, the current of your life, just the way you're wired, pulls hard to the left, and you're just trying to get through, well, then it's nice to know to stay to the right, isn't it? And that's exactly how you can use that. The next presupposition is that to change your response, change your map. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can add more data to enhance your map. You can change what you're comparing it to. You can enrich your library of internal representations or collages, and you can compare it to different things. You can try laying on a different meaning. Okay? Down the road, you'll learn things like different, what we call perceptual positions, where you can actually imagine stepping into the other person's shoes and being in their body, seeing the world out of their eyes, having had their experiences, and that will also enrich your map and quite often create empathy for the other person. And the final one is choice is better than no choice. The beautiful thing about doing something like neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and the other skills and techniques we're going to teach you is that it helps you to add more choices. Okay? It helps you to add more choice. When you have one option, it's been said that's a problem. When you have two options, now it's a dilemma. Realize this is how a lot of military type and cult-like type influence happens. Are you with us? Or are you against us? Pick a side, right? But when you have three options or more, now that is the birth of a real choice. And we in NLP believe that the unconscious mind will always make the best choice available to it at the time. And so what we want to do is we want to increase your set of choices that you have to choose from. Why? So that you can make the best decisions for you and for your life.
Hello, I'm Tim Hallbaum. I'm the Director of Training at the NLP Institute of California. And today I'd like to welcome Robert Harrison. And Robert is both a co-trainer of mine at the NLP Institute of California and also the director of the Bay Area Hypnosis Center in the Bay Area. And so, Robert, I have some questions for you about hypnosis.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So, first question is the most basic one, and that is, what is hypnosis and how does it work?
I think kind of a real simple definition of hypnosis is it's an altered state of consciousness where you're able to access a part of your mind that just seems out of reach for most people. So a lot of the behaviors that we do that are very repetitive and often kind of unconscious. And by unconscious, what I mean is it's out of your awareness. It's something you're you don't even realize you're doing it. When someone's biting their nails, for example, a lot of times they don't even realize they're doing it until they've chewed their nails down to nubs.
So you say we've got a lot of habit patterns of behavior and thinking that hypnosis can begin to work with.
Yes, exactly. Or, I remember when I was in college and I was doing creative writing, and I would pour myself a cup of coffee and smoke a cigarette while I was working. This was before I quit, obviously. And, I'd write for a while, and all of a sudden I'd look over and the ashtray would be full of cigarettes. And I'd be out of them. And I didn't remember smoking that many. Or the whole pot of coffee would be gone, and I didn't remember having that many cups. And so this happens all the time. You're in front of the TV, and all of a sudden you're having a snack, and all of a sudden the bag's empty, and your stomach starts to hurt, and you don't even realize how it happened. So
we're doing things all the time, I guess, that we're not necessarily thinking about very consciously. It's just some kind of rote behavior.
That's right. And so, neuroscience is really showing that a large amount of our reactions and responses are unconscious. They're out of our awareness. They're automatic and often hardwired in during those early infant developmental stages of life. So some people believe, between 0 and 6. And then impressionable, could be traumatic, could be even an ecstatic infant can create a new habit pattern. And when you get caught up in that, it requires a different way of going about reaching that and working with it. And the unconscious mind does not learn the same as the conscious mind. The conscious mind, you can get one idea and it clicks and you run with it. The unconscious mind is going to need a lot of repetition, and it's going to need it in a really simple form. So there's a whole art to how to put together a suggestion. And then the hypnotic state is really a very relaxed, open, uncritical, receptive state of mind.
Well, if you're in an uncritical, receptive state of mind, does that mean the hypnotist might be controlling the other person? Or?
No, not at all. So a great analogy would be, think of it like watching a movie. Now, we've all been to movies or been dragged to a show that we didn't want to go to, whether it was a play or a musical or whether it was actually a movie. And it's something you have no interest in and you don't want to participate in. You might be checking your phone, checking email, looking at your watch, when's it going to be done. But boy, when you get in front of a movie that you really want to see, right, the first thing you notice is all that chitter-chatter we're invited to a sway. And then pretty soon, if other people are around you and they start talking, they sound like one of those parents in a Peanuts cartoon. And then pretty soon, your attention is leaving you and getting drawn into the movie so much so that you may not even realize your leg's falling asleep, or you're thirsty or hungry or need to go to the bathroom. And pretty soon, if it's really, really good, if it's funny, you're laughing. If it's thrilling, you're on the edge of your seat. If it's emotional, you're getting teary-eyed. You're now responding to suggestion.
So this is like being really absorbed into some kind of an experience then.
Yeah, it requires you focusing your attention, using your imagination. It's cooperative. So I often will tell clients, think of hypnosis and doing hypnosis as a cooperative act. Think of me as the coach, you are the star athlete. I can help you run a better race, get there sooner, make it more enjoyable, but you got to participate. We're working together. And all of the hypnotic phenomena that we produce is you doing it.
So that's really interesting. So it really helps you get into a different kind of state of mind to be able to use more of your mind to get what you want. So I think that's leading to another question, which is, why would a coach use hypnosis in their practice? In other words, how will it improve their practice?
Well, this is a really interesting question. I'm glad you asked it, because there's a couple of ways. Number one, depending on the intervention. So I work as a coach and a hypnotist and a consultant. And there's a big difference, as you know, between a coach and a consultant. The main difference being the consultant is directly giving advice, whereas the coach is helping the person tap their own kind of inner resources and come up with their own answers. But there are certain applications where it's faster and more effective to use hypnosis than to use traditional coaching or even consulting. And so quitting smoking, for example, would be one. Losing weight, reducing stress. training, and I was really excited about NLP. And, I would go into these companies and I would talk about, what I could do. And I had this talk on, I think it was called How to Excel in Anything You Do. But throughout those talks, I would mention hypnosis briefly because there's this, connection of Milton Erickson with neurolinguistic programming. And what I kept finding would happen over and over again, to my surprise, is people would come afterwards and they'd say, hey, you mentioned hypnosis. And I was like, yeah. And they go, can you help me quit smoking? Can you help me lose weight? Can you help me get over my fear of public speaking? And so I realized, wow, this is what people really want. And even though there's a lot of sensational ideas about what hypnosis is, everyone's heard of it. And everyone's kind of intrigued by it. And so that gets people thinking. They wake up and they're in the pain of their problem. They wake up and they go, they're coughing up a lung and they're like, oh my God, I got to quit smoking. And so I found people could really relate to that, and they could relate to certain things that hypnosis was known and has kind of a reputation for being able to help people resolve. And that's one of the main reasons to add it to your practice, because it's still helping people. It's still making a positive difference. It's still generative in the sense that when you change something with hypnosis versus with a pill, it really makes you go, wow, if I can do that with my mind, what else can I do? And I'm a big believer in, as long as it's natural and generative, which is kind of like my requirement, I believe in using the tool that's going to get the job done the fastest, the most effectively, the most productively, in a useful way, that doesn't have any kind of negative side effects. And so with certain things, hypnosis just gets the job done a lot faster.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying correctly, the average guy on the street isn't going to necessarily know about different specific processes in a field like NLP, but they'll know they want to stop something. They've heard of hypnosis, so that might be an avenue for them to get some kind of help.
Yeah, and they realize, even though the average Joe may not understand, the technical aspects of something like hypnosis or neurolinguistic programming, what they do understand is, and they know that, hey, this isn't a problem of I don't know what to eat, for example, with weight loss. Everyone knows how to lose weight, but it's how to get myself to do those things I can't seem to get myself to do. So they recognize there's something going on in the mind, and it's out of their reach, and they're not sure how to do it. It's a really powerful tool to add to your toolbox when you're a consultant. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
So the average person is really kind of in the pain of their own problem. And so people tend to seek help based on their own unique pain that they're suffering from right at the moment. So, for example, and they're not necessarily concerned with how they're going to get it done. They just know they want relief. And a lot of people will come to see us for hypnosis that have tried other things, medical model type solutions, what have you, and not gotten a result or not gotten a result yet for whatever reason. They understand that there's something going on in the mind. They know what to do, but they can't seem to get themselves to do it. And so one of the things we recognized was that, people really relate to the pain of their problem. And that is really, what we talk about in terms of meeting people in their map of the world. And so, yeah. And so they're somewhat familiar with hypnosis, so that will pique their interest enough to pick up the phone and call sometimes, and then they come in and realize we're not swinging a watch, I'm not wearing a velvet vest or anything like that. We actually work with a lot of doctors and get a lot of referrals from doctors. I think we have over 100 referring physicians in the Bay Area here that refer to the Bay Area Hypnosis Center on a regular basis because, the results speak for themselves. And it's a great option among many other options. And I think each person needs to find what works for them.
So can somebody that attends your training be able to really use this to improve their own life as well?
Absolutely. One of the benefits of practicing hypnosis is, I feel like I'm benefiting from every session that I do, and the staff often report this. Learning self-hypnosis is kind of an extension of learning hypnosis. Once you know how to hypnotize somebody else, you really do have everything you need to know hypnotize yourself, and we talk about that. There's also a lot of emphasis, when I'm teaching, there's a lot of emphasis on what needs to happen in hypnosis. Because helping someone get in and out of that kind of open receptive state is one thing. But then what to do when you're in that state is a whole nother ball of wax, as you know.
Well, so in a moment I want to ask you how your training might be different than other hypnosis certification trainings, but let me ask you this. How would hypnosis fit into a person's coaching practice? You indicated some ways that they might be able to use it, but how does it fit in? Because coaching, people that go to coaching may not necessarily think about getting hypnosis as a part of that.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. So I got a call from a college baseball coach, and they were looking for sports coaching. His pitcher, who was a freshman pitcher, he was a rock star in high school. This guy throws sidearms. He was throwing about an 80-mile-an-hour sidearm in high school, which is really, really fast and really, really, he was a really accurate pitcher. But when he suddenly went into the college realm, it was a whole other ball of wax. And when the coach called me, he had, pitched a game and hit 3 people in a row. I was really having a confidence issue. So he came in for coaching on the mental side of the game. And one of the tools we use as part of that is hypnosis. So a lot of times I'll combine coaching and hypnosis. And so I'll use coaching to teach various, to develop a routine, for example. We always develop a 3-step routine for our athletes. And then I will coach them on the basic NLP math and help them understand how they are responding to the world, how they are in charge of that, how they create this map, and they compare this map to other maps in their mind. And that gives them a lot of strength and a lot of power. And then that also allows them to develop the belief that just because I feel a certain way about something doesn't mean it's true. But at that point, you still have this kind of habit that's been formed, this unconscious pattern and this reaction. And so with this guy, every time he got up to the mound after hitting 3 people, he imagined everyone in the stands laughing at him. He imagined, hitting another person, letting the team down. And so he was kind of stuck in that pattern of thinking. And so at that point, once he understood it, he saw the pattern, we were able to use hypnosis to redirect that behavior and to really make it not only feel natural, but actually become automatic much more quickly than we would have been able to do without using the hypnosis. So
just by using the conscious mind kind of coaching questions that you'd ask.
That's right. So I like to combine the two, and when we understand the pattern, I use this term called thought pattern identification. When we've identified the pattern and make them conscious, sometimes that in and of itself is enough to resolve it. But sometimes what we need to do is we need to then add hypnosis to that to really help redirect the wiring, so to speak, redirect the pattern of behavior. And it helps it happen more quickly, and it helps it really lock in a nice way.
Because you hold another set of tools for helping persons repattern their behavior in a way that to get with more of what they want then.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the other way we could use that is sometimes it's so far out of the conscious mind that they really don't have access to it. And so often what we'll do is, we'll do coaching as much as we can with the stuff we're aware of, but then we can use something like hypnosis to talk directly to their unconscious mind. So, for example, I might set up finger signals and talk directly to the part of them that's in charge of that behavior without having to go into any kind of real content or detail. And so it's another tool. It's a powerful tool. It often will accelerate the learning process and accelerate the setting up kind of inoculation of the new habit pattern that we want them to do instead. And it allows us to kind of mentally rehearse that at a pretty profound and deep level. So that becomes their new default.
So will people attending the training learn that particular kind of process?
Yes, they're going to learn that. The other thing they're going to learn is, the trainings, the way that I teach is really designed to give you from start to finish, here's what you really need to know to do this professionally in a professional setting. And a huge part of that is how to set up the session, how to run the session, how to do it, ratify the session, and so that the client really knows they were hypnotized, which is important to help them really solidify the change, but also so that when they go home and they talk to the other people that know them, we don't want them to say, I thought I relaxed. Because then everyone's going to wonder, did it really work or not? And then that can start to plant that seed of doubt. I want them to go home after a session. My God, my arm was stuck to the chair. I couldn't lift it. My eyes were stuck shut. I tried to count down from 100, and by the time I got to 95, the numbers were gone. And this is really good for building confidence that they're entering the hypnotic state and getting the change. So there's a whole art to how to do these sessions from start to finish, and then which tools to use. And what I like to focus on teaching is here's the stuff that I use day in, day out. In our long days, we may see as many as 24 people in a day. I try not to do that these days, but it can be done with 3 treatment rooms. Today, we had 3 people here at once, me and another hypnotist, and we're going back and forth room to room. So there's an art on how to really do that in a way where it keeps people engaged. It produces profound results. You're able to do it in a reasonable amount of time, or what you would call a session length.
Well, it sounds like this is something you can really use to help clients while making a good living then.
Absolutely. And it fits in so perfectly with coaching. It's a great tool to use to really help people get where they want to go. The big ones are smoking, weight loss, stress, which could include anything from a panic attack to fear of public speaking to nail biting to a tick. And then sports. Sports is another one. We worked with a number of high school students. I have another one coming in later on this evening. And these kids go on to get scholarships at UCLA, Stanford, Arkansas State, which is a big golf school. We had a golfer go and using, hypnosis. And of course, with the golf ride, a lot of these athletes are teaching self-hypnosis because they might be in Florida at a tournament, tennis for the tournament on a Sunday morning. I don't work then. And I'm certainly not in Florida, so I need to teach them how to get themselves into that optimal, receptive, open state where they can really access their kind of internal resources and bring out the best.
Okay, well, I have one more question. I know you've got an upcoming hypnosis certification training. How might that be different than another training? I know there are a number of different people that offer trainings in California. How might yours be different?
Well, there's 2 main differences. So the one difference that I mentioned, which is we really focus on here's the practical stuff that you're going to use in your coaching practice or in your, hypnosis practice, whether it's exclusive hypnosis or combined coaching. I always recommend you do both. But it's really like, here's the practical, road-tested stuff you're going to use day in, day out, over and over and over again, and how to make that work in a reasonable amount of time and get good, dramatic results. So that's one way. The second way is that we have a 3-tier approach here that is, I believe, very unique. And so whenever we're working with a client, and this is something that, of course, you teach in the training, because you don't work with each person the same. What I do with one person, I might have to literally do the exact opposite with another person. I'll tell you a little bit about what I mean with that. There's 3 layers. The first layer was the actual habits and behaviors that you are here to change. And I recommend only doing hypnosis and coaching with clear, measurable objectives. In other words, we have clear metrics. There's no funny business about did we get the change or not. You either smoke or you don't. You either lose weight or you don't. You either stop biting your nails or you don't. You either throw more strikes or you don't, for example. So there's the habits and behaviors here to change. Now, the second layer that is really important to focus on is stress and pressure. Stress and pressure is the number one thing that will knock a person off course or cause them to do what we call the derail and bail. And so in a real behavioral change program, it's incredibly important to learn the art of keeping the person engaged. So there's a lot of focus on that. Big difference between being a coach hypnotist in my book and being a therapist. And, realize my sister is a therapist. Her husband is a therapist. Yeah, I love therapy, but it's just different. With coaching, as a coach and hypnotist, we are focused on a specific result, a personality profile. And we have a real simple way of teaching that. And with each one of these kind of different personality types, there's what we call key attractors and key stressors. And so we train hypnotists how to track on those three levels. Because when they go into stress and pressure, or what Virginia Satir would call a coping mechanism for stress, then they can't hear anything. They can't learn anything. You've lost them in that moment. So you need to be able to really know when they're receptive and open and when they shut down. You need to be able to see that. And then if you know a little bit about their personality and what those attractors are, that lets you know these are the things this person will take. So to give you an example, a freedom-based person, freedom people, they want to do what they want to do when they want to do it. They don't want to be told otherwise. It's all about options, options, options. So anything that sounds restrictive or controlling, or like you're telling them what to do, is instantly going to be a deal breaker for them. They're going to get tight, they're going to rebel, they're going to sabotage. Well, on the other hand, someone who's very rules or security-based, they want to be told exactly when to do it and how it needs to be done, so that they don't have to worry about getting it right or not. It takes the stress and pressure off of making a mistake. They know where they stand. And so they need to be handled completely differently.
So your program is very skill-based, practically oriented, and the people leave with specific skills that they can put into place with clients and augment their income as a coach, or just learn hypnosis for their own sense of well-being and effectiveness in the world. Would you say that's true?
Yes, that's definitely true. And we also do cover some of the major themes, like, in other words, when you're dealing with smoking and weight loss. We have very kind of intricate protocols that we can train, but in the basic certification, we're going to cover here's kind of like the major themes and stumbling blocks with these core areas, so that you get the right smoker or a weight loss client or a stress client. You know, these are the likely areas where they get stuck, and here's kind of an aerial view of what really needs to happen for them. And then if they want to continue with their education, they can get deeper into the exact protocols, of course. But understanding the big aerial pictures and the big themes really will help equip them to start to go out and really build their own program and really be of service to people, which is really what I'm about, is, helping people in a natural way that's very generative.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for your rich explanations of hypnosis and what's possible and what you'll be offering in your upcoming training. And, I would recommend that anybody that's interested in building a new skill set really check this out and consider it for themselves. So thank you again, and best wishes to you.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert Harrison. I'm an executive coach. I'm also a board certified hypnotist, and I'm a trainer with NLP of California. I am a hypnosis trainer, and I'm also a trainer in neurolinguistic programming. And I'm proud to be able to bring to you now the 2-day Wealthy Mind experience. This was created by Tim and Chris Halbom, the owners and directors of the NLP Institute of California. And this 2-day experience is a workshop. It's not a seminar, which means we're not just going to give you information that you can then hope to use when you leave, which quite often people don't fully take advantage of. It's going to be an actual workshop. And our goal is to do a real intervention in that 2-day period. Now, what is the Wealthy Mind and how does it work? Wealthy Mind is not just about money, although that is the focus for many people, and there is a focus on money during the training. But a wealthy mind and a wealthy mindset is the ability to create what you want and bring it forth in your life, which means you have to have an abundance or a wealthy mindset inside to support you consistently taking the action, going through the learning, and getting yourself from where you are to where you want to be. So, whether your personal focus is relationships, or your physical health, or money, or perhaps your career, perhaps you're interested in getting a job promotion or a better job, or perhaps you're interested in starting your own business, or maybe you own a business and you want it to be more fruitful, you want it to run better, or work less hours, whatever that particular goal is for you, this will be an opportunity to really focus in on it for 2 days, to get clear about where you are getting stuck currently. And one of the themes we're going to teach you about is what's called the 7 universal cycles of change. And these are the 7 cycles we all go through, that all living things go through. And this has been as consistent and true as long as the world has been here. This is how everything operates that is living. It goes through cycles of change. Some would even argue that inanimate objects go through the same cycles. But step 1 is to identify where you are in that cycle so that you have an understanding of what needs to happen next in order to get where you want to go. The second thing is we're going to go over what's called the 9 keys of bringing. This is the ability to consciously create what you actually want in your life and bring it to you. What you're actually going to do on the inside and on the outside to really bring it forth. And this is well beyond what most people would consider manifesting. This is very scientific. It is evidence-based. There's a tremendous amount of research behind it. And in fact, there's quite an extensive bibliography in the back of the training manual for this. You'll get training manual similar to this during the 2-day experience with everything we will be teaching you. And once you know those 9 keys, you will be able to consistently set meaningful goals that are in alignment with what you really value most. A lot of times we get an idea of something that we want, but we don't really fully think it through, and that is part of the problem of what happens that prevents us from actually reaching it, because there might be concern. Part of us really wants to do it. Another part of us is I'm not so sure, because there might be some sort of fallout as a result of getting that resolved. So these 9 keys to bring forth this, and you don't even have to do all 9 of them. They give you 9 different ways to make that a real reality. And then we're going to, once we've identified what that meaningful goal is, in a way that's going to really be what we call ecological long-term. That means it's good for all parts of your mind. It's good for all of the people in your family, for example. If you own a business, it's good for the whole company. It's a well-formed goal that doesn't really have any apparent downside. So it's important to always check for that. Then how to identify what is actually giving away specifically. And we're going to be focusing on the layer of beliefs, because beliefs, what we believe we can and cannot do, is what ultimately drives human behavior. It drives what we even consider as a possibility or not. And I'll give you example after example after example during the training. But here's a little one right now. Prior to May 6, 1954,